and welcome to the first video in the series on how to prepare data for analysis. In this video, we're going to explore on how to efficiently clean data with the Tidyverse. Tidyverse is a combination of several useful packages which help us to prepare data. So let's just download the Tidyverse. Since the Tidyverse is installed, we want to have it to function. So we call library. Now we see all the different packages which are installed and which we will need for our analysis. We look at these three commands. Well, what do they do? We can have a look at our corporate tax dataset for a second. We won't click on it. Names corporate tax. And then we see those different values which are in there. But maybe we don't need all of those values. Let's take a closer look. This displays a community ID. So you might just want to click in it to specify that you know what I'm talking about. The community ID is just some identification. But then we go into constituency level, which we might not want to have. Then we also have the name of the constituency, which we might also don't want to have. So we just need things from community, and we might want to have a year value this year. So let's just say we need this, we need this, we need this, and we need all of those tax variables. All right, how do we do that? We just call the select function. Corporate tax, and then we just specify the numbers we want to import. For instance, we want to have the 1 and everything above 6. So we want to have 1 and 6 through 10. And then we want to save it somehow because otherwise it's useless. We call it selection. Selection by numbers. That's the first way to select things. Now you see variables. There are those 6 variables we have specified. We can just test it. There you go. Those 6 things we want to specify. Yeah, it's quite a nice variant, but there's other ways how we can select. One way which I won't demonstrate here is you can also just put a minus before the numbers, and then everything will be imported except for the specified set of numbers. It's a way to do it, but in my opinion it's a little dangerous. That's why I also won't demonstrate it. The next simple way is to import via name. Selection name. You just put the select command, and you already see the first argument is always the name of the data set. And the second argument is always the number or the name of the columns. In this case, we just type in names. For instance, we want to have out of this big data set, we just want to have com name and BP or something like that. So we just put com name, community name, and BP year, yeah. So you just press Control Enter, and as we haven't specified anything else, there is just 2 variables in there, the ones we have mentioned. Might want to check it. I'm struggling hard, but finally we have the names. So you can also just combine numbers with names. That's no problem. I wouldn't recommend to do so. I would recommend to decide for one of these variants. The third and probably most comfortable variant is use the starts with arguments or ends with or contains arguments. As you might have noticed, those 3 things all contain the word Gewerbesteuer or Steuer, which translate into tax. So we want to have all the tax data, which might be comfortable just to put it that way. We also want to have everything which contains the word community. So com name and com ID. And we want to have the year, which isn't able to combine with anything else. So then we would just put another variant. I call it comfortable. Starts with com for community. And we say it contains the word Steuer, German for tax. It's case sensitive, be careful. And the final variable bplyR, which we also want to specify. Those three things we want to import. You can also just give it the name corporate tax in front of here, but then caution, it will be overwritten, the old data set. That's why we always give it new names. All right. You hit the Control Enter button, and you see down here the comfortable is made out of 6 variables. We will look at the names of it. There you go. Everything which contains the word Steuer and which starts with com and the bplyR, as we have specified. So you see there's tons of different ways how to select. It always depends on the dataset, what's the most comfortable version, and if you have a little practice with it, it's quite nice. You can also combine those things. First command, select. Second command, filter. We have selected columns. What if we don't want to select columns out of our corporate tax data set, but we want to select certain rows? For example, those rows which contain the year 2008. You see that up here, the bplyR, it specifies the year. It's just some weird name for year, but it's several years, and we want to just have the years. Or another variant would be all the rows which contain the word Eidlingen. It's some community in southwest Germany. Let's try it with Eidlingen. We want to select all rows which contain the name Eidlingen. How do we do that? Filtered, AID for Eidlingen. I always give it those names to get some sort of overview. So we put the command filter, and yeah, you guessed it, the first argument is the data frame. It's always the same. Corporate tax in our case. And we set everything which contains Eidlingen in the com name column. So we say the column we want to specify equals Eidlingen. In this case, it's a name. It's a character column. If we would have a numeric column, we would have to put a number, not something in exclamation marks. All right? Let's press the Control Enter. And we see the filter Eid already only has 6 observations, and all the variables are still in there. We see this command enabled us to pick out all values for Eidlingen, the community name, within the different years, which is in the data set. With that, we are able not only to filter columns, as happened with the select command, but also filter rows with the filter commands. And we can apply here the column we want to use and the specification. In this case, it's the name of a village. This is the filter command. The third command is mutate. For instance, we might want to add another column to the existing columns. Let's have a look. The corporate tax is usually made out of 2 things. It's So we want to add another column to this. We might be, for example, interested in a certain tax net value. For this, I'm just going to explain you what this data set is about. It's about German municipal tax. So Eidlingen is one community, this is another community, and they get every year some corporate tax. This is Gewerbesteuer ist aufkommen. But this is not the net value, it's just the money they get. From that money, they have to get this money to the other levels of German government. For example, the Berlin also gets parts of this money. This means from this money, this is subtracted. Maybe we are interested in the net value, which is the result of this minus this. It's not in the data set, but it might reveal some other interesting information which we currently don't have. That's why we want to add another column, mutate, and subtract this from that. You can also divide, you can multiply, you can all kinds of operations, but in our case we just want to do a subtraction and add it to our data set, which might be necessary for our analysis. And that's where the mutate command comes in. We hit mutate, give the name of our data set, corporate tax. We say, for example, net equals the difference of this Gewerbesteuer column, this column minus this column. So we put Gewerbesteuer ist aufkommen and subtract it from this one, which is basically the money they pay to the upper governmental levels, Gewerbesteuerumlage. With that, we can have the other column, but before we do that, we might give it another name. So add it, so that the old one dataset stays the same, and the new one with the added column is just created. So you already see there's 10 variables in the original dataset and 11 variables in the new dataset. We just look at the names that you know what I'm talking about. Is all of these 10 and names added is all of these 10 plus the so-called net. And if we look into it, we see it's a difference out of these two things, which display the net corporate tax income of every municipality in every year. Those are the three basic tools. You use select to select columns. You use filter to select rows with a conditional statement. And you use mutate to add new columns. Of course, there's lots of other commands which enable you to do more data preparation. And there's also the pipe operator, which eases you to use several commands in combination. But for that, I urge you to click on the next video and watch it. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next video.